Hi and welcome everyone. Today we're going to be doing a short 30-minute prenatal yoga flow. Just taking some movements that are really useful for helping release any tense muscles, for finding some more fluidity in the body, and hopefully easing any sort of leg cramps or particularly kind of feelings of stiffness through the hips, the low back, and the legs. Now, if you have not checked with your doctor about practicing yoga during your pregnancy, please do. But this practice is going to be safe for all trimesters. So no matter where you are in your journey, we are good to go. At any point, if something's not feeling right, please adjust, please shift. The thing that's amazing and sometimes difficult about pregnancy is that everybody is so different, and what feels good in everybody is so different. So if something isn't feeling right, stop, don't do it, take it back a notch. I always recommend to have 2 blocks or 2 books for pregnancy. It's just really nice for navigating your belly, and to have either a blanket or a bolster. So I'm sitting on a yoga bolster here, but if you have a blanket or a pillow, you can also find something like that to sit on. And that's how we're going to start today. So gather up your props. Again, sitting on either a blanket or a bolster. What we're doing here, and the reason why we're doing that, is we're creating a little bit more space in the hip flexors and the low belly, and then also helping our pelvis tilt correctly. So many of us, when we sit and turn to the side, many of us when we sit, kind of sit back like this, and we have this rounding, right? And this isn't great for positioning baby in the best way. What we want to do is sit tall, and we think about the baby resting in the hammock that is our bellies. So when we sit up on something, that helps create that action of the pelvis tilting forward, the baby falling into the belly, and helps the fetal positioning for labor. So once you find that position, let's rest the hands onto the thighs, or if it feels good, hands can go on the belly. You can close the eyes, and then feel the sense of lift up through the crown of the head. Feel like you're gently drawing the rib cage in, like towards the back body. So you're not sticking the chest out, but there's this gentle drawing back through the rib cage. I'm just trying to stabilize the spinal column. And we'll draw a deep inhale through the nose and a full exhale through the mouth. Deep breath in through nose and exhale through the mouth. One more breath in. Release through the mouth. Start to breathe in and out through the nose, making sure that you never stop or constrict the breath, but that it is always flowing, always nourishing you and baby. You take this moment at the beginning of your practice to take stock, to see how you are doing, how baby is doing at this moment. Maybe you're feeling really comfy, maybe you're feeling really tired, maybe you're feeling not so comfortable, right? It changes minute by minute, hour by hour, day by day. So noting where you are, recognizing you are exactly where you are supposed to be, with all of the twists and turns of pregnancy, all of the waiting and appointments and decisions. For a moment, rest right here instead. Nowhere to go, nowhere to be, just you and baby, connecting, breathing. Let it be that simple. Your next inhale, you can open your eyes. Let's lift the hands up to the ceiling. So stretch the arms out and up. Reach the fingertips tall. Pull the fingertips up to the ceiling as the tailbone drops towards the earth. And then drop the right hand down to the right, left hand reaches up and over, creating a side stretch here. We want to create a lot of length through the side of the waist. So we're not thinking about it moving as much through the arms as we're thinking about it moving through the rib cage and the side of the belly, making more space for baby. Depending on where you are in your pregnancy, you might feel that need for more space. You drop back up to center, inhale. Left hand down, right hand up and over. Maybe you even feel like you're pushing the rib cage over to the right. Create a little bit more of a side stretch. Nice. Come back up to center on the inhale. On the exhale, draw the fingertips back behind you. So the fingertips can rest on that bolster or rest on the earth. I'll turn to the side so you can see. So fingertips are back on that bolster or down onto the ground. And what we'll do is just simply draw the shoulder blades together. Draw the sternum up to the ceiling. So we want to think of this back bend kind of like a candy cane, like it's straight through the low back, and then it's just the upper back that is lifting and curving. Maybe the gaze starts to lift more towards the ceiling. Right? We don't want to do any deep back bends. We don't want to overstretch the abdominal muscles, which are already doing so much as baby grows. So just stretching through the front of the heart, opening the front of the shoulders. And then on your exhale, return back to neutral. So we'll stay to the side so that you can see what we're going to do here. We're going to take some circles. They're called Sufi grinds. Hands come onto the knees. And what we'll do is start to move the chest in some circles. So the chest is creating circles forward and left and back and right. And you can make these as big or as small as you want, as fast or as slow as you want, depending on how far along you are. It'll feel more or less comfortable to make these movements and to see how big you want to make them. But particularly if you're a little further along, I'd like you to bring some attention to the low belly, like right where the baby's sitting, even lower than the baby, and invite a little softness into the low belly. Right? We're just starting to relax out the ligaments, allow things to have some fluidity. Let's go circles in the opposite direction. Make sure you are still breathing as you move. And just notice how it feels to soften the low belly. So much of late pregnancy and into labor is simply the baby moving and finding the position so that it can actually be born. So we want to create some softness so that the baby can navigate as he or she gets bigger. Okay, take one more circle. And then return to center. Take a moment here at center. Notice any changes in the belly. Maybe baby's talking to you. One more inhale. And exhale here. Let's remove our padding and come onto hands and knees. So I'm going to bring the blocks towards the front of my mat. Remove my padding off to the back of my mat. It's out of the way. And then find hands and knees here. Now what we'll do is take these hands directly underneath the shoulders, knees directly underneath the hips, or maybe knees just a little wider if you need it for your belly. And then we'll turn the fingertips out to the sides. So fingertips out to face the edges of the mat. And we already start to get a little extra stretch into the inner wrist. Notice how that feels. And create some circles here with the upper body. So I'm moving the body right and forward and left and back. And see if you can notice a few different places that you might draw your attention. One place you might draw your attention is to the wrists, into feeling the stretch and the strength as you bring weight into the wrists and move them around. Another place you might bring attention is to the shoulders and seeing the shoulders as they rotate in their connection to the rib cage and to the spine. One other place you can draw attention is to the hips. Let's switch our directions. And looking at the hips, you can feel how the legs and the hips, that articulation between the hips and the leg bones, can soften out. All right, so depending on what's going on in your body today, you might find more activity, more sensation, more conversation in one of those places. But notice how we're really diving into this rhythm here of breath and slow, steady movement. Right, this very rhythmic kind of action. It becomes so important during labor, so important during contractions. Let's return to center. Turn the fingertips to face the front of the mat. We'll move into cows and cat poses. So on your cow, roll the shoulders back. Start to lift the gaze. It's like the chest is drawing forward. And on your exhale, press into the hands to round the spine and tuck the chin. Inhale, draw the heart forward, gaze forward. And on the exhale, round. So you might find you even draw the heart a little back when you do so. So the inhale, there's this little forward motion. And then the exhale, a rounding, a wrapping back. And this is a movement. Keep going with your breath. This cow and cat pose, this is a movement I'd recommend doing every day during pregnancy. Again, really wonderful for your fetal positioning because we want the back of the baby's head, the back of the spine of the baby to be facing towards the belly rather than towards your spine. And just also is really nice relief for the back if you're having any pain there. One more round. And exhale. We'll meet in a neutral spine. Take a moment to notice how the back feels. Notice how the belly feels. Well, let's extend the right leg back behind you. So the ball of foot's going to be on the mat. The right heel draws back in space. I like to do a little forward and back movement here because calves can get pretty tight, tense up during pregnancy. So let's find some stretch to those calves. And again, notice this rhythm of rocking forward and back. Right? Can you stay contained in the rhythm? And then you return to neutral. We're going to lift the right foot into the sky. So keeping that right leg in line with the right hip. The back body strong, the hands pressing into the earth. And what we'll do here is start to lift the right hip. So we're opening the right hip out. And then on the exhale, start to drop the right hip so it's like you're closing the pelvis off. So the inhale, you lift the right hip. And on the exhale, you close, close, close. And what we're doing here, keep moving with your breath, what we're doing here is actually creating some movement and fluidity in the left hip. So even though we're moving the right side body a lot, notice what's going on in the left hip to create some space. This is really nice if you're experiencing some tightness down the hip, down the leg, particularly some sort of sciatic pain. This can feel really good. Take one more round. And exhale. Return to neutral. Take the knees down to the ground. Let's sit back into a child's pose. Let's draw the knees wide. Sit the hips back here for a moment, having the inner thighs get to open up. Now you decide how low you want to go here. You might want or need a block to come underneath the forehead. Belly's in the way. Make sure the knees are wide enough. In this child's pose, really softening the low back, letting the hips relax back. All right, another place that some women actually like to labor in this position. You can actually do your contractions in this child's pose, particularly if it helps you feel a sense of calm or release through the belly and through the back body. On your next inhale, come back up through hands and knees. Remove the block up to the front of the mat. We've got one more side to do, so draw the knees a little closer together. Left leg extends back behind you. Ball the foot on the mat. Pull the heel back in space, and then you can start to rock forward and back. Now I know there's a lot going on our hands and our wrists. If you are feeling a lot in your wrists right here, two options. You can bring your fists onto the ground. That might help stabilize you instead. And I have my thumbs pointing towards the front of the mat. Or even forearms onto the ground. So see which one works best for you. Hands, fists, or forearms. And then once you find that movement a few times, let's find stillness. Left foot lifts to the sky. Left hip lifts up on the inhale. And then drops on the exhale. Move with your breath, lifting and lowering. There's no rush, no speed we have to go at. You just keep moving up and down, noticing what is happening in the right hip. Right? Pregnancy, we have so much extra fluid in the body that it can cause some swelling and some tightness around different connective tissue, different nerves, and cause a lot of discomfort. That's why you often get carpal tunnel or that sciatic pain. Come back to your neutral. and then knees down to the ground. Sit back down into your child's pose. And then I'm going to grab that block underneath the hip, or underneath the head. So what we're trying to do is loosen up any of that swelling, any of that, I don't want to say that puffiness, but that extra fluid that's causing constriction. We want to liberate it. We want it to move. One more inhale. And one more exhale. Now we're going to take a variation of our child's pose here. I like to use blocks underneath the hands, so you might do the same here as you practice with this child's pose. Your knees can come a little closer together if they need. So notice how I'm sitting up a lot higher into my child's pose. And what we're going to do is walk the hands over to the right side of the mat. So walking the hands up and over to the right. And then I start to pull the hips back. So I'm creating a side stretch through the left side of the waist. And I'm creating some length through the back and the low back particularly. Notice any tendency to really drop through the chest. If that might create some tension in the low back. What if instead you stay strong through the back body? You're pulling the chest slightly away from the earth so that you get more length through the back body. And if you don't have blocks, you can use blocks here or even just have the hands on the ground. It's totally fine. And then slowly we'll come back to neutral, come back to center, and then take the blocks over to the left. And you'll drop the hips back in space, pulling long through that right hip, creating space through the right edge of the body. Resisting that temptation to drop the chest a lot and instead staying strong through the back body, stretching through the low back. Really nice. Simply draw back to center on your inhale. And then lift up to hands and knees on your exhale. You can remove the blocks from underneath you. Take any little movements you need, shifting hips side to side, circles, anything you need to do to release that stretch. Let's move into a down dog here. And we're going to take the down dog slightly different than you do in your typical vinyasa classes and typical yoga classes if you've been there before. You are going to tuck the toes. We're going to press the hands into the earth and then start to lift the knees just a few inches off the mat. Pull the hips back in space and start to lengthen the hips up and back, up and back. Now notice, I'm going to keep my knees pretty bent here. I'm not aiming to straighten them out. I'm keeping them really, really bent. I'm going to take my feet a little wider, and you can do that to accommodate your belly. So nice deep bend in the knees, really nice wide feet. Press the hands forward. Feel like the forearms are drawing to the front of the mat as the hips draw to the back of the mat. Find a lot of length here. All right, so in this shape during pregnancy, I'm really focusing on lengthening the spine and creating some decompression through the spinal column rather than lengthening through the hamstrings. You already probably get a lot of stretch. You might get a lot of stretch through your hamstrings already. So we're just focusing here on lengthening the spine. Take one full breath in, a long breath out. Bring the knees down to the ground. All done. If you want to take a cow pose, drop the belly, lift the gaze. You can take a cat around the spine, tuck the chin. Neutral spine on your inhale. From here, walk the right hand a little closer into the center line of the mat. So you're just moving that right hand a little more to the left. And we're going to step the right foot to the outside of the right hand. Depending on how far along you are, you might want to put your hands on some blocks, and that'll make it easier to step that right foot forward. So right foot to the outside of the right hand, so both hands are on the inside of the leg. I'm going to scoot my left knee back a little bit and just start to shift the hips forward in space. I love the blocks here to give a little extra lift in the body. Just take this moment to feel the hips stretch forward, especially through the front of the left hip and thigh. Feels really good to create some space there. There's this muscle called the psoas, and it connects from the spine across the front of the hip over to the front of the thigh, or to the inside of the thigh. And It sort of holds the uterus in some ways, and it can constrict the movements of the uterus in some ways. And so, especially as you move deeper into pregnancy and at the end of pregnancy. So we want to stretch through the front of that hip, stretch through the psoas to create, again, some fluidity, some flexibility, room for baby to navigate and move. Take one more breath here, shifting those hips forward. And then on the exhale, start to walk the hands back, walking the blocks back with you for a half split. So my left hip is on top of my left knee, and then my right leg is extended long in front of me. And it doesn't matter how straight that right knee gets. What you just want to do is press into the right heel, feel the right hips gently drop back in space, and you get a nice stretch through the back of the right leg. Let's bring some movement here to help keep us with our breath flow and with that ritual. So on the inhale, you're going to just lift the gaze forward. You think about opening the heart. And on the exhale, round the spine, totally tuck in. Lift the heart, inhale. And then round on your exhale. 2 more times. Lift. And lower. 1 more. And lower. Nice. On your next inhale, walk the hands forward, rebend the right knee. You find that lunge. And then step back to hands and knees. Walk your blocks over to the right a little bit more. So now my right hand is in line with the right edge of my mat. My left hand is coming more towards the center line. And then I'm going to step the left foot to the outside of the left hand. And I'm moving my right knee back a little bit to find the stretch for my body. And you can press into those blocks, books, or the earth as you feel the heart lift and the hips softening forward. And you just relax into this shape. So in pregnancy, you have a lot of actions happening that soften the muscles and relax the ligaments. So we have relaxin that's helping relax the ligaments. The high estrogen, progesterone are also softening our muscles and connective tissue. So we're not trying to push. We don't need to get anywhere. This is not the time to be like, I wonder if I could get more flexible. This is the time to soften into where you are, to relax into the body, and to not push hard, to not overtax. Take 1 full breath and a long exhale. Let's slowly walk the hands back, straightening out the left leg, finding the half split position. Press the heel forward. Feel how the left hip gently moves back in space as you do so, and then let's round the spine. The inhale, we're going to lift the heart. And the exhale, we're going to round. Keep moving this way. Noticing how it feels in the body when you take these 2 diverse shapes. And the next time you inhale, stay lifted. Rebend the left knee. And then let's step back to hands and knees. You can remove those blocks out to the front. Let's take 1 cow pose, drop the belly, lift the gaze. Round the spine on your exhale. Come to your neutral spine on the inhale. And then on your exhale, we're going to sit back onto the heels. So you can just gently sit back onto the heels. If this doesn't feel comfortable, you can use your padding, you can use your bolster underneath the hips, or even take the feet wide and sit on a block. So there's a couple different options here to sit back. Now when we sit here, we're just going to do a few movements for our pelvic floor. Now, you've probably heard about Kegels and their importance of having a strong pelvic floor during pregnancy, but the fact is we're not trying to just find strength, we're trying to find balance. So we do want some engagement in our pelvic floor, but we don't want to hold tight and not be able to move it. We want to also be able to relax the pelvic floor. So we're going to practice finding this engagement and the relaxation so that we have muscle control, which is much more important than simply being really strong. I love the analogy of you don't want to hold your bicep like this all day, right? Like this isn't a strong bicep. A strong bicep is one that can go back and forth with that weight attached and with that load. So we're going to practice with our pelvic floor today. Here's what we're going to do. And if you need to close your eyes to really embody in, please do. What we're going to do is on our inhale, we're going to imagine softening the pelvic floor. So the space between the legs from the urethra, the front all the way to the back to the anus, and through the vaginal canal, just softening and relaxing. That's our inhale. On the exhale, think about drawing up through the vaginal canal. The analogy is used as sometimes like you're picking up a blueberry with your vagina off of the earth, or if you're slurping up through a straw. I love the straw analogy, the big, thick, like slurpy straw, because we want to think about drawing up more than just at the surface of the vagina, but rather all the way up the vaginal canal. So the inhale is a softening and a relaxing, and the exhale is an engaging and a drawing up. So keep working with that, the inhale softening and the exhale engaging. You keep doing that, so a couple of notes, it might feel like you want to go the opposite way, that you want to engage on the inhale and relax on the exhale. I get it, a lot of people do it. I used to do it. What that does though is put us at the opposite motion of the diaphragm, so underneath the lungs. So we want the diaphragm and the pelvic floor to move together, and so that means that when we inhale, the diaphragms relax, and on the exhale, we draw engagement. So keep going with that. Now, one other note, if you're someone who has a lot of pain with the insertion of a tampon or with intercourse, like every time pain, that likely means that your pelvic floor is pretty tight. And so for you, rather than thinking about engagement on the exhale, simply continue to focus on the relaxation. So you're going to inhale to relax and exhale to stay. And inhale to relax and exhale to stay. So that's if you have a lot of pain with tampon or intercourse. Otherwise, we're inhaling for softness, exhaling for engagement. We're going to take 2 more rounds. This is again a movement to do every single day. Nice, let's release that. If you're new to that, maybe you didn't even really feel anything, that's okay. Imagine it, visualize it, and keep practicing. We need to connect brain to those muscles which are there. But if you've never done a Kegel before, or you've never thought about your pelvic floor before, you might not have those connections as strongly wired, but they're there. Okay. From here, we're going to move into a Shavasana, into a final rest, just for a few, just a couple quick minutes. A few different options. If you're in your first trimester and it still feels great to lay on your back, please feel free to lay directly on your back. If you're at a point where you get a little bit of shortness of breath and you've been advised to start sleeping on your left side, this happens at different points for every pregnant person, but I'd say if you're in your second trimester, it's a great thing to start practicing. You can move into laying on your left side. This is how you're going to do it. You're going to use your blocks or your books or whatever padding you have to lay one block on the low level and another block on the medium level. I'm going to lay down on my left side with my left arm underneath my head, and then take the right knee and place it on the low block, and then my right foot, I'm going to move my blocks a little closer, my right foot or ankle are going to go on that higher block. So I'm tipping the knee down, which is helping open the pelvic outlet, and then I'm going to extend my left leg long. So it's not bent, the left leg is long. And last piece, I'm going to roll slightly towards the belly, so I'm not directly on the left hip bone. And this can help you maintain some comfort as you take this position a lot during sleep over the next couple months. So once you've found your rest, let's stay right here. Your eyes can close. Your breath can smooth. And we did some relatively simple and gentle movements today, but we did move energy, baby, muscles, connective tissue, and breath. So maybe checking in, maybe noticing how you might feel different than when we were seated at the beginning of the practice. And take this time to connect with yourself and with your baby. getting to be right here. And knowing that this will indeed end, this will indeed change. No matter what, baby is going to be born. So noticing today for what it is, whether it's a great day or a not so great day. And recognizing you can always come to some stillness in your breath and presence right here. You can always choose to stay here as long as you'd like. Just continue resting. If you're ready to exit the practice, you can slowly take your leg off of the blocks and gently press into the hands, coming up to your seated position. I'm going to find a seat once again on my bolster. And once you found your seat, taking hands back to belly, eyes closed. Taking a moment of appreciation for your body, for the amazing things it is doing without you even asking. Right? You are growing a new human. What a powerful, amazing body it is that you have. Recognizing this deep connection between you and your baby. Right? That it exists here. That you are working together, communicating together to nourish baby and to nourish yourself. And setting that intention of continuing to nourish yourself and your baby through the rest of your pregnancy. Let's press the hands together, palms together at the center of the heart. We'll draw a deep inhale together and a long exhale. The light in me very humbly bows to that same light in you, the light of your baby. Namaste. Thank you so much for practicing with me today. I'd love to hear how you feel after this practice. Feel free to reach out anytime. Namaste.